In the quiet neighborhoods of Houston Heights, children rode their bikes down narrow sidewalks. They laughed, tossed balls into yards, and ran to the small storefront that smelled of roasted pecans and powdered sugar. It was a simpler time, or at least it looked like one. The man behind the counter was always kind. Dean Arnold Corll handed out free candy to local kids. His family owned a small candy business, and he made sure no child left empty-handed. He was soft-spoken, polite, almost awkward. Neighbors described him as a little shy, but nice enough. To most adults, he barely registered. To the kids, he was the Candyman. But candy was never just candy. Behind the powdered sugar smiles and caramel slick hands was a predator, a man with a dark, methodical patience, a killer who built a system, not for chaos, but for control. This is the true face of Dean Corll, and it begins with deception. Dean was born on December 24th, 1939, into a fractured home. His parents divorced and remarried more than once. He grew up quiet, never violent, never loud. Those who knew him said he was respectful, responsible. He played the trombone in high school, stayed home more than he went out. But what he lacked in chaos, he made up for in secrecy. After serving in the Army as a radio repairman, he was honorably discharged. Some believe due to suspicions about his sexuality, though nothing official was ever confirmed. By the mid-1960s, Dean had returned to Houston to help his mother run the family business, the Pecan Prince Candy Company. That's where the persona started to take shape. The Candyman, free treats for the neighborhood boys, friendly chats, smiles that meant trust. But for Dean, those boys weren't customers. They were inventory. Dean Corll wasn't the kind of killer who acted on impulse. He didn't stalk victims in alleyways. He didn't chase them through forests or leave taunting notes behind. He built a method, a quiet, calculated machine. The first moving part was David Owen Brooks. David was 12 when he first met Dean. They played pool, talked about music, and over time, the older man gave the boy gifts, money, rides, even a place to crash when things got rough at home. By the time David was in high school, Dean had established something far more sinister: trust. David would later say Dean began exploiting him sexually. But it didn't stop there. Dean offered him something more. "Bring me other boys, I'll pay you." And David did. He lured his own friends, acquaintances, boys aged 13 to 17, into Dean's home. Some were told there was a party, others were promised weed, girls, beer. Most never left. But Dean wasn't done recruiting. In 1971, Elmer Wayne Henley, another teenage boy from the Heights, entered the picture. Like David, he was from a struggling home, and like David, he fell under Dean's influence. At first, Elmer thought he was being hired to help kidnap boys for a child exploitation ring, or at least that's what he told police years later. Whatever he believed, the result was the same: more victims. But Elmer didn't just help. He became loyal, complicit, deadly. Dean Corll's house, modest, plain, became a slaughterhouse. Inside, he built his signature tool, the torture board. It was a sheet of plywood with handcuffs nailed to each end, ropes, and a hole for breathing if he gagged them. A refrigerator sat in the corner. Plastic covered the floor. The walls were soundproofed with padding. When the boys were brought in, they were offered drinks. Some were drugged. Others were tricked into playing handcuff games. Most were bound before they understood what was happening. Then came the terror. Dean assaulted them, tortured them, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. He often forced David or Elmer to watch, and sometimes to participate. His control over them was psychological, financial, and spiritual. To them, he was a strange kind of father figure, and a monster they couldn't escape. He kept trophies, photos, notes, and when it was over, he disposed of the bodies like trash. But with one eerie consistency, he buried them in places that mattered to him: the rented boat shed, underneath his family's old beach house, shallow graves near High Island. By 1972, Dozens of boys had disappeared from Houston Heights. Parents went to police, desperate for answers. But these were poor neighborhoods, and many victims were labeled as runaways. He probably just skipped town. He'll come back when he runs out of money. They do this sometimes. The system failed, again and again. No one connected the dots between these disappearances. No one linked the Candyman to the missing posters. Not yet. Dean Corll was free to continue. And he did. He changed addresses several times, took victims in different homes, but the method stayed the same. Lure, bind, torture, kill, bury. And all the while, he smiled, drove his van, handed out candy. By the summer of 1973, something had shifted. Elmer Henley, who had long played the role of apprentice, began questioning what he'd become a part of. But Dean wasn't letting go. He was erratic, possessive, dangerous. He told Elmer they were going to move away, start fresh, and then, the final spark. One August night, Elmer brought a friend, Timothy Curley, to Dean's house, and a girl, Rhonda Williams. Dean lost it. He yelled, screamed. He didn't want girls in the house. He had rules. Rhonda's presence shattered the illusion of control. So Dean did what he always did. He tied them all up. But this time, it didn't go as planned.